On Halloween night, the air feels different. The veil between the living and the dead thins, and the dark corners of the world seem to come alive. What starts as innocent fun, costumes, candy, and laughter quickly turns into something more sinister. Clowns with realistic masks turn out to be killers, murdering nearly everyone in the party. Tonight, we dive into the true, disturbing Halloween stories that remind us that some things don't stay true to childhood fiction. Get ready. This Halloween, the stories aren't the only things that are scary. The night of Halloween started like any other. The streets were full of kids in costumes, laughing and running from house to house. I was going to a party at my friend Jake's house. He always threw the best Halloween parties with loud music, food, and crazy costumes. I was dressed as a zombie, with fake blood spilling all over my shirt and face. I thought I looked pretty cool. Jake's house was packed when I got there. The music was blasting, and everyone seemed to enjoy a good time. People were dancing, drinking, and laughing. There were all kinds of costumes: witches, vampires, superheroes, clowns, Squid Game characters, and someone dressed as a giant taco. But one costume stood out. It was a guy dressed as some sort of creepy clown. His mask was white with black around the eyes and a wide red smile. He carried a fake knife that looked too real. It even had fake blood dripping off it. I remember thinking his costume was awesome, but also kind of scary. His costume was the most realistic one. The night went on, and I was having fun with my friends. We played beer pong and ate way too much candy. I didn't think much about the creepy clown guy until things went wrong. It began when someone screamed from the kitchen. Everyone stopped and turned to look. A girl named Lisa ran into the living room, her face pale. She said she found someone in the kitchen lying on the floor. Jake and a few others ran to check it out. I followed because I was curious. We saw a guy dressed as a pirate lying on the floor when we got to the kitchen. There was blood everywhere. At first, I thought it was a prank because, it's Halloween. But then I saw his eyes wide open, staring at nothing. Jake leaned down to check his pulse and shook his head. He's dead, he said, his voice shaking. He had wounds all over his body as if he was stabbed with something multiple times. Panic broke out. People started yelling and running around. Someone called 911, but the cops said it would take a while because they were busy dealing with Halloween chaos. We didn't know what to do. Jake tried to calm everyone down, saying it could have been an accident or something. No one gets stabbed multiple times by accident. That's when I saw the clown guy again. He was standing in the corner of the room, just watching. His fake knife was gone, and I noticed something dark on his hands. My stomach sank. Was it real blood? Before I could say anything, he disappeared into the crowd. I told Jake what I saw, but he told me to stop freaking out. He said I was probably imagining things because I was scared, but I wasn't imagining it. I knew what I saw. I decided to keep an eye out for the clown guy. More screams came from the backyard. A group of us ran outside and found another body. This time, it was a girl dressed as a fairy. She was lying near the pool, her wings soaked in blood. Her throat was deeply cut, and I could clearly see her esophagus and other things that are in the neck. Everyone started freaking out even more. Some people tried to leave, but the gate to the backyard was locked, and no one could find the key. It felt like we were trapped. I started looking for the clown guy again. I knew it had to be him. He was the only one that looked suspicious. I spotted him near the edge of the yard, standing by a tree. His mask looked even creepier in the dim light. He saw me looking at him and tilted his head, daring me to do something. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't move. Then he walked away. "We need to stick together," Jake said as he tried to take charge. "If we stay in groups, we'll be safe." But staying together didn't help. The clown kept picking people off one by one. It was like he knew exactly how to separate someone from the group. A guy dressed as a werewolf went to the bathroom and never came back. A couple dressed as matching vampires were found in the garage, their costumes soaked in blood. Every time we found another body, the panic got worse. People were crying and yelling. Jake tried to keep everyone calm, but it wasn't working. I kept looking for the clown, but he was always one step ahead. It felt like he was playing a game with us, and we were losing. At some point, the power went out. The music stopped, and the house went dark. The only light came from the candles on the tables and the flashlights on our phones. We all huddled together in the living room, too scared to move. Jake said we should wait for the cops, but it felt like they would never come. Then we heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming down the hallway. Everyone froze. The clown guy walked into the room. His mask splattered with blood now, and I knew it wasn't fake. Someone screamed and chaos erupted. People ran in every direction, trying to get away. I don't know how, but I ended up in a closet. I could hear the clown's footsteps and the screams of people as he hunted them down. I tried to stay quiet, but my breathing was so loud in the silence. I thought for sure he would find me. I don't know how long I stayed in that closet. It felt like hours, but it was probably only minutes. The house was quiet now, and that scared me even more. I finally worked up the courage to peek out. The living room was a mess. The furniture was overturned, and there were red streaks everywhere, but the clown guy was gone. I crept through the house, trying to find anyone else who was still alive. I found Jake in his kitchen. He was sitting on the floor, his back against the fridge, holding a baseball bat. His face was pale, and his hands were shaking. "He's gone," Jake whispered when he saw me. "I think he left." We didn't wait to find out if he was right. We ran out the front door and kept running until we found a police car. The cops finally showed up, but it was too late. Almost everyone at the party was dead. They searched the house and the neighborhood, but didn't find the clown guy. It was like he vanished. That was a year ago. Jake and I don't talk about what happened. I've tried to move on, but I can't. Every Halloween, I see his mask in my nightmares. That hideous, long smile staring at me. I don't go to parties anymore. I don't even dress up for Halloween. I just lock my doors, turn off the lights, and pray that the clown guy doesn't come back. I've always loved Halloween and used to stitch my own costume every single time. In my childhood, I used to sit with my mom when she used to sew it, and now I do it on my own. My boyfriend Kyle had planned something special for us. He said we'd go to a party later, but first he wanted to take me somewhere. I thought it was romantic. I thought he wanted to surprise me. I didn't know it would turn into a nightmare. Kyle was dressed as a masked killer. He wore a black hoodie, ripped jeans, and a white mask that covered his whole face. I teased him, saying he looked scary. He laughed and said, "That's the point, right?" I was dressed as a witch with a black dress and a pointed hat. I was so excited to spend the night with him. We got into his car and he started driving. I asked him where we were going, but he just said it was a surprise. The farther we drove, the less cars got. There were no streetlights, and we were on an abandoned road. We were heading into the woods. I started feeling uneasy. "Kyle, where are we going?" I asked again. He didn't answer this time. Finally, he stopped the car on a dirt path. There were thick trees all around us, and the only light came from the car's headlights. "Come on," he said, getting out of the car. I hesitated, but then I followed him. He led me down a trail into the woods. The leaves crunched under our feet. It was so quiet, too quiet. My stomach started to twist. "Kyle, this isn't funny. Where are we going?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just kept walking. After what felt like forever, we reached a clearing. A wooden table was in the middle, like something from a horror movie. My heart was racing now. "Kyle, seriously, what is this?" I said. He finally turned and looked at me. Even with the mask on, I could feel his anger. "Do you think I'm stupid?" he said. His voice was cold, and it made me freeze. "What are you talking about?" I asked with my voice shaking. He pulled out his phone and shoved it in my face. On the screen were pictures of me talking to another guy at school. "You think I want to find out?" he said. "You've been cheating on me." "Kyle, no, that's not true," I said. "He's just a friend. We were working on a project together." But he didn't listen. He grabbed my arm and dragged me to the table. "Kyle, stop. You're hurting me." I screamed, but he didn't care. He tied me to the table with the rope he had hidden nearby. I struggled, but he was too strong. Tears streamed down my face as I begged him to stop. "Please, Kyle, I'm telling the truth," I cried, but he didn't believe me. He pulled out a knife. It was long and sharp, and the blade glinted in the moonlight. My heart felt like it was going to explode. "Kyle, please, don't do this," I begged. He just stood there staring at me. "You broke my heart," he said. "Now I'm going to break you." He started slicing at my arms and legs, not deep enough to kill me, but enough to make me scream. The pain was unbearable. Blood ran down my skin, and I felt like I was going to pass out, but I couldn't give up. I had to get out of there. "Kyle, please," I sobbed. "I'm sorry if I hurt you, but this isn't the way." He didn't say anything. He just kept cutting, like he was enjoying this. I started pulling at the ropes, trying to loosen them. My hands were slick with blood, but I couldn't stop. I could feel the rope starting to give. Kyle was so focused on what he was doing, he didn't notice. Finally, I managed to get one hand free. I didn't think. I just acted. I grabbed a rock from the ground and hit him as hard as I could. He stumbled back, dropping the knife. I didn't wait to see if he was okay. I untied my other hand and ran. I ran as fast as I could, branches scratching my face and arms. I could hear Kyle behind me, yelling my name. My heart was pounding, and I could barely see through my tears, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I I finally saw the road up ahead and I ran towards it, waving my arms and screaming for help. A car was coming and I threw myself in front of it. The driver slammed on the brakes and got out. "What the hell?" he said, but then he saw me. I must have looked awful, covered in blood and crying. Please help me," I begged. "He's trying to kill me." The driver helped me into his car and locked the doors. Kyle came out of the woods, but when he saw the car, he ran the other way. The driver took me to the hospital and the police came to take my statement. They searched the woods for Kyle but didn't find him. It's like he disappeared. That was a year ago. I'm still trying to put my life back together. I have nightmares every night, and I'm scared to leave the house. I'll never understand why Kyle did what he did. I thought he loved me. I thought I could trust him. But now I know the truth. Monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes, they're the people you think you know. Since then, I never got into any other relationship, and I always feel like he'll come for me. I take self-defense classes now. Halloween was supposed to be fun. Everyone said it was the best night of the year, with candy, costumes, and parties. But for me, it became the scariest night of my life. I'm 10 years old. My name is Chris. I went trick-or-treating with my friends dressed as a pirate. My mom even painted a fake scar on my cheek with makeup. We walked around the neighborhood, going from house to house. The streets were full of kids and parents. Everyone laughed and had fun. That's when I saw him, Mickey Mouse. Or at least someone dressed like Mickey. He was taller than the Mickey Mouse you see at Disney World. His costume looked as if it had been sitting in a dusty attic for years. The big black ears flopped to the side, and the white gloves were stained. But the mask was the worst part. Mickey's big cartoon eyes weren't happy. He was just standing at the corner of the street, watching. I thought he was part of someone's Halloween decorations, but then he waved at us. His hand moved slowly, and it looked creepy. My friends thought it was funny and waved back. I didn't. Something about him didn't feel right. "Come on, Chris, don't be a baby," my friend Sam said. "It's just a costume." We kept walking, but I couldn't stop looking over my shoulder. Mickey was following us, staying far enough back that it didn't seem obvious. Every time I turned around, he was there, waving. My stomach felt tight, like I was going to throw up. At the house, I told my friends I had to go home. They laughed and called me a chicken, but I didn't care. I just wanted to get away. I started walking back, gripping my candy bag like it was some kind of shield. The streets were quieter now. Most of the kids had gone home. I kept my eyes on the ground, trying not to think about Mickey. But then I heard footsteps. They were slow and sounded sneaky. I looked back, and he stood in the middle of the road. Mickey. He didn't wave this time. He just stood there, staring. My heart started pounding, and I walked faster. "It's just a costume," I whispered to myself. "It's just a costume. Someone is trying to prank me." But the footsteps got closer. I started running, my candy spilling out of the bag as I went. I didn't care. I just wanted to get home. My house was only a few blocks away. If I could make it there, I'd be safe. I turned the corner and slammed right into him. Mickey. He was standing there like he knew exactly where I was going. He reached out and grabbed my arm with his gloved hand. His grip was cold, even through the glove. "Let's go on an adventure," he said. His voice was deep and muffled like it was coming from inside the mask. It didn't sound happy or cheerful. I tried to pull away, but he was too strong. He dragged me off the street and into an alley. I screamed as loud as I could, but no one came. Mickey pushed me into a van parked at the end of the alley. The inside smelled like mold and dirt. Ropes and chains were on the floor, and the windows were covered with black paint. "You'll have fun," he said, closing the door. The van started moving, and I was thrown against a wall. I banged on the sides, yelling for help, but it was useless. I was trapped. We drove for what felt like hours. My head hurt from crying, and my throat was sore from screaming. Finally, the van stopped. Mickey opened the door and pulled me out. We were in the middle of the woods. It was pitch black. "Time to play," Mickey said, dragging me deeper into the woods. I tripped over roots and rocks, but he didn't stop. My legs were scratched and bleeding, and I was so scared I couldn't even think straight. Finally, we reached a small clearing. There was a hole in the ground big enough to fit a person. Next to it was a pile of dirt and a shovel. My stomach dropped. "Please don't hurt me," I begged. "I'll do anything, just let me go." Mickey didn't answer. He just pointed to the hole. "Get in," he said. I shook my head, my whole body trembling. "No, please," I whispered. He grabbed the shovel and slammed it into the ground. "Get in," he yelled. I climbed into the hole, tears streaming down my face. The dirt was cold and it smelled like rotting leaves. Mickey stood over me, holding the shovel. I closed my eyes, waiting for him to start burying me. But then I heard something, a voice. "Hey, what are you doing?" I opened my eyes. A man with a flashlight stood at the edge of the hole. It looked like a hunter with a rifle slung over his shoulder. Mickey froze, staring at the man. Then, without a word, he turned and ran into the woods. The man helped me out of the hole and called the police. They searched the woods but didn't find Mickey. They took me home and my mom hugged me so tight I thought I'd break. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mickey's mask staring back at me while I was in the hole. I don't know why he let me go. Maybe the hunter scared him, or perhaps he's still out there, waiting for another kid to take. Or maybe he'll come back for me. Halloween isn't fun anymore. It's not about candy or costumes or parties. It's about him, the Mickey Mouse who wasn't Mickey at all. I was left traumatized that night, and I still am. As the night winds down and the candy bags are full, remember this. Not all things go back to where they belong once Halloween ends. So, when you hear something in the silence of your room, or catch a glimpse of something in the corner of your eye, don't be so quick to dismiss it. Halloween's darkness might just be hanging around, waiting for the next chance to remind you it's real. If you found this scary, then don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. See you soon.